kill you. I'm gonna attempt to do the Crankhub. So, watch many videos. I have like all the stuff printed out that's necessary. And I think we're just going to give it a try. So, worst that happens is the car never runs again. Those taste disgusting. Alright, first things first. You can come off whatever. First thing I'm going to say is while you're doing this, I'd highly recommend to do something that I didn't do, which is unplug your battery. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it in this time-lapse clip, but I actually arced my ratchet from the like the jump post in the engine bay to the like support that goes across the engine bay to like, I don't even want to call it a strut bar because it's not the carbon fiber part of the strut bar, it's the like the backside, the brace. So I would just say make sure you unplug that. It didn't do any damage. It definitely did shut down the entire car, but once I replugged in the battery, everything was good to go. So yeah, do that. It's like the first rule of doing anything mechanical is usually unplug the battery. This one, I was just kind of sending it. Should have did it. So please do that. This first section right here that you're seeing after I just told you to disconnect your battery is basically, you know, the the first steps of doing anything in the engine bay of this car, which is taking off the strut brace, uh, getting everything ready to be able to take off the charge pipes, which if you've done charge pipes before, those will come out. Your intakes are coming out on both sides. And then really you're just kind of trying to get to the point where you have to get to the intercooler, which is held on by two rubber grommets and then by the actual coupler itself going to the J-pipe. I had an issue with the coupler with the J-pipe. It was really stuck on there. I mean, my car's only been driven for 30,000 miles, but it is a 2016. So obviously it's a little bit old, but after just wrestling with it for a little bit and twisting it from different angles, I was able to break that free. So once you get to that, that's kind of when we get into the land of, for me on this car, which was the land of the unknown. As you can see, I'm like bouncing back and forth between trying to get the intercooler out, and then I'm going and working on like the injectors, coil packs, and everything like that. The reason is because I had such a hard time with the intercooler, I didn't want to waste the time. So I was using that time to do things that I could do while I was trying to think of new ideas for the intercooler, which ended up just me, ripping on it to get the coupler disconnected from the J pipe. Um, the big thing here is also just with back to the battery disconnect thing. Nick recently was working on his 335, didn't disconnect the battery and was messing with the injectors, and they're grounded right to like the valve cover through like the metal plate that holds the injectors in. So if you don't disconnect the battery, you can arc it there, and he actually messed up his DME. So it's very important to do that. Obviously, I mean this is gonna be the last time I mention it, but there you go. It's my warning. Other than that, even doing the injector, or you don't have to pull the injectors, but doing the coil packs, taking out the injection harness itself is pretty self-explanatory. It's a few 8 mils, and then you're just kind of pulling everything out. To get the coil packs out, it's easy to like if you flip up the actual plug that like holds in, like the latch that holds the plug in, you can put your finger through there and just pull them out if they're a little bit stuck. So if you've never messed with BMW injectors before, you do actually have to disconnect the electrical connection that ignites the injectors and allows them to open. So the clip on that is it's pretty small. I just use a flathead screwdriver to assist me on like every connection throughout like any vehicle or piece of equipment that I've ever worked on. So it made it pretty easy. You just like are essentially opening up this latch, and then you're able to pull out the connectors. And as you can see, got the intercooler out of the way, and like right here, I was ecstatic. This was massive for me. So this is a point where, once again, I'm getting to the point where it's like I got to take off the valve cover, and I'm not fully committed yet, but we're getting to the point where I feel like, all right, I'm in this job. I got to keep going. So uh, I'm going to be taking off the fuel rails. As you can see, I'm using rags to kind of catch any residual fuel. I haven't started the car in a while, so there's not fuel pressure really waiting, but there is going to be some seepage of fuel that comes out. This is, I believe it's 17s on the like actual feeds, and then 14 is used on the injector uh, side as well. Using e-sockets is basically how you get this valve cover off. Once you have the fuel lines disconnected and the injector harness disconnected, you're able to get like everything out of the way of the valve cover and be able to take it off. The main part of this is just making sure all these bolts are loose. They're held in place. They don't fully come out because they're kind of collared into place, but making sure that all of them are loose, and then not, it's a plastic valve cover, so you don't want to like pry on it. Kind of just shimming it back and forth to break the seal that's there. Allowing it to come off is what's important here. You have to kind of then snake it out at the time being, because there is still essentially a cover on the backside of the engine bay. You can take that off ahead of time. I didn't at the time, and you can still get it out without doing that. I started my work up top in the engine bay. You can also do what I'm doing right now beforehand, which is taking off essentially all this underbody paneling stuff. If you've ever done the crank bolt capture, which I had done previously, I kind of knew the route that I was going to be going because I have to get at least the bottom side of the fan off. So after I take off all those underbody panels, there's two little pieces that are kind of completing the fan shroud on the bottom side that need to come off, just held in by some plastic screws that are e-torques, or that are just torques in general, I believe, now that I think about it. Ease some of the weight on that thing, Blair. That's actually probably a perfect time for a little intermission. It's coming along. The only thing that's been tough so far is I kind of had the stuck intercooler coupler. Yeah, about to pull the radiator out. So got a few more things to disconnect from the top side here. A few like little clippy things and hoses clipped to it. And then we'll try to sneak it out. Trying to do the least amount of stuff possible without draining coolant and everything like that. So every video you watch or thing you look up, people say to do it differently. So I'm just going to see what I can get away with. We're about at the point where I got to put this thing at top dead center and then lock the cams, get the pin in the transmission, and, you know, hope for the best. So, yeah, we'll see how this goes. So, just keep time-lapsing, and I'll probably be doing some voiceover stuff. My original plan was to not drain any coolant on this if possible. I think it still might be possible. You don't have to drain the charge, like air cooler side of things, so the intercooler side of things, but I found it easiest that I did have to drain the radiator system. And the reason I did that is because the hoses that go to the radiator, they're just really thick and in the way. There is this little flap on the side of the fan that you can fold out of the way, but still, even with that folded, there's still the clearance just isn't massive. So I made the decision to drain the coolant. There was, I went back and forth, and as I said in the previous clip, I wanted to do the least amount possible, like take out the least amount of stuff possible to make it as easy as possible. But sometimes with that idea, you can end up essentially wasting a lot of time to try to figure out a way to get it done in the way that you want to do it by not taking anything out for it just to not work, and then you end up doing it the way anyway. I'm already cutting so many corners because BMW calls for you to pull the subframe, pull the oil pan, and I'm trying not to do those things. Uh, and by going this extra step, I actually wasted a significant amount of time that I could have just, drained this right away and had the fan out way earlier. I was just thinking, this would be a great time as we're sitting here watching a time lapse together. Then maybe you comment on the video. Maybe you like it. Maybe you dislike it. Maybe you should definitely hit that subscribe button. Uh, don't really have any other content cooking at the moment. But yeah, I would greatly appreciate the support.
Can you see the mirror? Right there is the plug on the mirror. So once you know where it's at, it's actually just like on the other side of the oil pan right here. So it's like right up here, and then you just reach your hand in and you can feel the tip of the plastic plug. My fingernails are dying. And I'm gonna try to grab it with like a pick, but right on the other side, right on the other side of right here. This is the bottom of your oil pan. It's literally on the like bottom part of the engine block. You can reach your hand in, just follow the lip, and you feel the plastic plug. So that is your timing plug. So you have to pull out.
A very important thing that I realized, and this didn't happen actually until after I completed this entire thing, is the pin that you're actually supposed to use in my timing kit is the longer silver one for marking top dead center in the flywheel. The black one will work, but the silver one actually gets the proper depth to actually hold the hole, like actually get in there. Um, so I will mention that at some point in the video. Use the silver one, but as I marked out that spot, just know that once you get that pin in there, because I had to redo this, I went going back to the crank then just with the pin in, with no other flywheel, like with the cam still unlocked. You can get onto the flywheel, or not onto the flywheel, onto the crank, and you can try to bar it over, and it's not going to allow you to bar it over. That's how you know you're set to top dead center on the crank. So hindsight's 2020. Wish I would have did that originally, but we're here.
Number one, look at me, can you tell? I'm sweating, I'm miserable, boys. And maybe girl, hey Tina, if you're watching, hey Mike, if you're watching. So what we've been working on is getting the vacuum pump seal out, which is this big one. You probably, because it kind of had an angle of something. This is what I had to do to get this out. This is also why I'm not going to be able to finish this in the timeline that I wanted to, because I didn't order the seal. But there is a tool to remove this easily, I think. Well, not necessarily easily, because you have to take off the accessory drive to be able to mount it, because I'm pretty sure it mounts like where these idlers go and stuff. Anyway, yeah, so I got it out. How I did it is beat the shit out of it. It's really what it is. I have like this snap-on pry bar has like a decent cutting edge to it. So I was able to kind of dent it in like 3 different spots and like 3 corners. Moving the tensioner back and forth, giving myself a better angle depending on what it is. And then eventually I just kind of got a cut started, and then I kept smacking along the pry bar that was this side to get this cut. And I made it open up enough. I was able to get a lady's foot in there, kind of pry it a little bit, separate it. And then when I got to this bottom right side, I was going to try to separate the seal from like the actual timing cover. So I kind of like chipped at it. And then I heard a loud pop, and I said, oh my God, hopefully I didn't break something. But then I was able to fish this out because it was only held on by like a piece of rubber up here. And then I was able to get the pry bar in, wedge it up against like the block itself, behind the lip of the seal, and just push all my weight up against like towards the car, and it popped out. I was able to like see it kind of like slowly working out. But yeah, that's out. And then also there's the oil pump tensioner hole, which is like this other hole right there. Let me see if I have the, I do. Silver Schmear. That's this guy. This one, you're supposed to be able to get a punch just on like one side of it and tap it in, and then, you know, pull it out like this way. But what I did was I had the tensioner loose, so I had more room. I got it from, hit a little bit from the top, hit a little bit from the bottom. It wasn't until, what did I end up using? Either a pry bar or I had long 3/8 extension, because I don't have any long punches that would be able to work. I mean, if you have the radiator out and the subframe out, you can easily get it, but the subframe's in the way right there. So I actually popped it in, which was bad because I'm trying not to pull the oil pan if I don't have to, because that requires pulling the subframe, pulling a bunch of other stuff. But then I stuck my dogs in there while like I was holding it in with the extension up against the actual tensioner itself. Put my finger in there, and I kind of like was able to, you know, finagle it out just to get a little bit, and I got some vice grips on it, and I was able to get it out. Everything's as top dead center can get. We got these covers off in here. You can't see them, I'll show them to you later. With everything still tensioned is when I'm going to now just break loose the crank bolt, because this brace is obviously assisting. We have the trans holder, the flywheel holder thing. I got the pin in, this thing's top dead center, so I'm just gonna break loose, breakaway torque. It's like 400 foot-pounds, so you need this to, you know, help yourself. So, yeah, and then once we break it free, then we can start taking stuff apart. So, gonna get that knocked out. I'll probably just, I don't know. Yeah, I'll record it or something. I don't know. We'll see. We're gonna have to mute it though, because we jamming. There's some music. You feel me, player? new clip, so I don't, because I have to mute that last one. Now I just got to do timing chain tensioner, which is one of these sizes that I have laying around right here. It's this one, 27. Use 27, knock out the timing chain tensioner. Then I'll take out these guys on the timing chain guide here. Pull out these bad boys. And then once that's done, I have like the little access ports off, so I can pull out the timing chain guide itself. And then, yeah, we're going from there. We're just disassembling. So, you know how it be. You know how it be, baby. Time lapse time.
As I mentioned previously, I actually had to end up essentially redoing majority of this. So this is where I'm going to give you some tips. To know that the cams are fully at top dead center, the QR codes will essentially be facing the sky. There's going to be two QR codes, one on each cam, and you'll be able to see them facing the sky. The brace itself should be able to slide over easily on top of those, and they should sit all the way down. There shouldn't be, on the intake side, there shouldn't be a gap, there shouldn't be anything like that. And then the same thing with the actual, it's what measures, like the induction wheel essentially on the front of the Vanos gears. Those should slide in perfectly to the N55, S55 purple brace that you see on the front here. Mine was off just a hair, which ended up messing up timing for me completely in general, which I had to take everything back apart, which meant then I had to get new bolts for the Vanos gears because they're a one-time use, which delayed me even further. But using the correct pin in the crank and then also paying attention to the QR codes and making sure that you can take off this purple brace and put it back on in the same spot. Like it shouldn't, be lifted up a little bit on each side. It should be completely flat across the head. You'll be better off than I was. It wasn't that big of a deal being off one tooth. It just threw a code, and then I kind of had an idea that I probably messed something up. There was no damage. It's not like I was like 90 degrees off and I'm smacking uh, valves. So yeah, other than that, once I did the breakaway torque, you'll see me right here going to be taking out the actual bolts coming out of the cams and then uh, disassembling the rest of the stuff. This stuff is actually pretty easy. There's a few little front plugs that you have to take off. Mine weren't C's, some people are C's. They're aluminum, so they can be stripped. So be careful, they're Allens. If you need to, get the RBRT sockets, so they don't round. But I had a pretty easy job. It's the actual guide itself is only held in by two bolts underneath those two plugs. But this part I was where I was really worried, but wasn't that bad.
I don't know if I'm gonna use this or the phone clip play. Probably the phone clip because it's funnier. Uh, got the hub miss out. It's definitely not. It's definitely a stock one. It's got the friction disc, everything like that. So when I was taking that out, saw this in the pan. I looked at the part number. It's part of the oil pump tensioner, but the clips don't look broken, and it doesn't look broken on like the inside part of it. So I'm probably just gonna snap this back in. As you can see, like those things are good to go. I use a pry bar, even though I have like the right tool to get the front main out. This was truly more difficult, probably because you're supposed to do it while the crank hub's still in there. Sorry, I'm flustered. I'm really sore. Let's see what else we can hit you with real quick. Using the Vano solenoids to kind of pull like the timing chain and the chain guide and everything. Using that as like so you don't drop the chain in the pan. As you can see, I kind of stuffed a rag down in there to catch any shavings from when I was doing the seal. I used, here's the right part number if you want, right? Assembling hook. Yeah, this is the assembling hook. It's like a little red hook that holds the oil pump gear, like it doesn't allow it to get tension so you can take it off. This is the part number. I use a punch because honestly, keep it real with you. That thing, not a lot of room. I got big hands. I shake a lot. It wasn't happening. So yeah, I mean, everything came out pretty easy. I'm waiting on a right-handed drill so I can drill the crank because we have the SSR 4-pin right here. This does have, let me show you. Let me show you, player. Let me put you down in here in your box. This GoPro about to die, player. So, you have 4 pins right there. That's a crank hub. This is the drilling fixture with the bolt to drill it. I'll put a link to the write-up made by SSR, specifically talking about like how deep to drill, how to do it, stuff like that. I'll put a rag below it. I'm going to use grease and then oil, drill really slow, and try to be as straight as possible. Because if you don't drill straight, like you can even tell when I'm putting this fixture on top of here, like this is snug. I would have to press fit these, like if I wanted this to sit down on here. So if you're off a little bit, that's why people break, you know, you'll break a pin, or you'll break 2 pins and you'll still spin this hub. So, you know, it's just, be super careful cutting these. I'm gonna take hours to cut these 4 small ass holes. I can already tell you that. So, yeah, today really wasn't, I mean, I've only been out here for, I don't know, an hour or something like that. If I didn't, I'm gonna keep it, I'll keep it buck. Whoop. Flipping this around, this is a little weird. I don't have like a little hand thing. If I, had cleaned up like each day, drink water, cleaned up each day so I was a little bit more organized, and then also didn't lose my flashlights, I swear I spend like the one flashlight, which funny enough, where is it? It's in my back pocket right now. This flashlight right here, this little Streamlight wedge, it's crazy good light. So I'm always looking for it and I always place it somewhere and I lose it. So I cumulatively probably spent like 4 hours looking for flashlights of some sort. So yeah, I'm gonna do a little cleanup while I'm waiting, because I'm waiting for the right angle drill to come in. I have to wait for that vacuum seal to come in and some other little stuff I forgot to order. Who knows when that's gonna be here. Obviously I had to get coolant and stuff. But yeah, we're basically at the part of, I mean, I guess drilling would be the 50%. And then it's reassembly. Once I get the actual hub in and like onto the lower timing set, we're flying back. I don't have a timeline anymore, but it shouldn't be that bad to, you know, finish it out, because it's just the reverse of what you did. The only thing you gotta be careful with is the timing. Once the timing set, boom, bada bing, then it's throwing stuff back together. That's going crazy, but we get the valve cover on, and then valve cover is really the last thing that you gotta be careful with. So, yup. Catch you later, player.
This is the really fun part. This is about, you're about 50% when you're here. It's the drilling. Uh, I have the 4-pin. There's like big 1-pin dowel versions. There's 1-piece, 2-piece crank hubs. Really pick your poison. I went with the 2-piece because it's makes it easier not having the oil pan removed. But after the fact, I did see a video where somebody did a one piece and still didn't have the oil pan removed. That you just have to finagle with the timing chains a little bit more. Uh, some people say the 4 pins are uh, fragile versus like you can get big 1 pin ones. But anyway, all of them you're gonna be drilling for the most part. Or if you get the spline lock ones, then you don't have to worry about it. But to me, splining it physically with a dowel essentially is, to me, that logically makes a lot of sense. So this is slow. This is where you're gonna spend whatever amount of time that you spent like taking it apart. If you were flying, there's no way to do this fast. If you try to do this fast, you're either gonna break a bit or you're gonna mess up and drill sideways. Uh, so the advice that I have is just go slow. Really lubricate your bit. Use like a medium amount of force and just be drilling super super slow and be careful. I broke a bit. It was horrible. Um, everything that can go wrong will go wrong. So just be slow. There's gonna be a lot of drilling footage in here. I might speed it up an additional amount compared to already what the time lapse had. But there's gonna be 4 holes that I'm drilling, and just do it slow. If there's any concern, as you see, I didn't pull the oil pan, which was a big thing for me. I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have to put the engine support bar across. So one of the videos I watched, I saw that they used rags and essentially put them below where they were drilling, also using the lubrication to catch a lot of the metal shavings on the bit. So there wasn't a lot like being flung around. But where you can put that rag underneath the crank itself, there's almost the block casting where it works in the oil pan. You can get a rag in a spot that it won't allow metal shavings to get into the rest of the pan. I left my pan full with oil because I was going to flush and drain it after the fact. So underneath that rag is still, the oil that's in my pan. And as I'm drilling, I'm taking every once in a while, like every 15, 20 seconds, I'm taking out my bit, cleaning it off, and then I'm lubricating and going back to drilling. Maybe I was being too cautious, but without pulling the pan, I'd rather be as safe as possible and not have metal shavings all over the place.
You ready? This is how you sync stuff up. 1, 2, 3. All right. Let me show you the mistake. Do 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 do. Can you see that? Boom. Break the drill bit in the crank. Overlay picture here. I thought I got it all out. That was before Thanksgiving. I just checked. Overlay this picture I took with the borescope thing, with the camera. It's still in there. I got 2 holes fully drilled. The third hole I was drilling halfway through, I broke this drill bit. That sucks. So I'm going to drill the 4th hole. Hopefully be able to take the drilling fixture off so I can get the drill bit out, because obviously I'm not going to be drilling through a drill bit. That's just not going to happen. And it's going to work harder, and it's just going to be a disaster. Hopefully I drill this 4th hole. I can then take the drilling fixture off, which then will allow me to get the rest of this out of there. And then I can use those 3 other holes to line up the drilling fixture, which then will allow me to properly drill the 3rd hole that I messed up. If you're curious, there is the part number 59366 on this drill bit. I got this one, this one, this one. I have 3 more in my toolbox, and I have 3 more ordered on the way, because I wanted to get this done before I took it up for Thanksgiving. It is now after Thanksgiving, and the reason because when I ordered these, the first company that I ordered them from, there's no shipping delivery date. I didn't even think the first 6 were going to come, so I had to order another 3, but the shipping took 7 days on the first 6, and then these other 3 I'm still waiting on. I should be getting them either today or tomorrow. Tomorrow, actually, I believe, because today is the 4th. Anyway, that's my rant. Guess I'll get to drilling. See you in a little bit. Oh, enjoy the time lapse.
As you may have noticed, I didn't overlay the picture. The picture was doo-doo quality. So I'm just gonna save us all our vision and not show you that one. But yeah, more drilling. I'm just gonna put this little clip here. Just know that I drilled the fourth hole. I had to essentially take out the drilling fixture to get the rest of the drill bit out. It just pulled out then. And then I used the remains of that drill bit because they're the same size as the dowels to line it back up to finish the third hole. I then double checked my depth on all four of the holes and went through, and if I drilled a little bit further than the dowel's length is to make sure there's clearance. I then used a shop vac with a vacuum line on the end of it to vacuum out metal shavings, as well as a magnet, then to clean up more metal shavings, as well as flushing it to get more metal shavings out of the way. Uh, I'm not going to use the entire clip of me going back through and drilling this stuff, but I will put a little clip in while I'm talking right here. But yeah, this is still the same thing as before. Just take your time, lubricate it. I didn't break another drill bit. I explain why I broke the drill bit coming up, but yeah.
When we get to making some jam, I don't know. The other ones are super sweet. This is what I do. Get a little bit of oil. You can get somebody, if you have some cutting oil and stuff, you can have a pimp help you out. Put this here because this little nub really hurts me. And the reason I broke the original drill bit is I have a lot of knee issues and hip issues. And when I'm bent over, I get locked out. So I kind of got locked out. My left leg gave out. So this is the new way I found of doing this. And I'm literally doing this, and then we're going back to the time lapse of in here. I'll show you. So I go down here. I put this drill in here. I get this Johnson in here. I line it up in the hole. Put it in the hole. And then I come up here. And now you might be saying, that looks hella weird. It does, but it feels great, so. How funny would it be if I instantly just break this one? But yeah, son. We're gonna be drilling. So I'm actually not gonna time lapse this. I'm just gonna stop the GoPro because I've showed you, well, actually all four, but it is just no reason. It's literally just me drilling really slow and then putting oil on the drill bit every 30 seconds. That's what makes me think there's still some drill bit in there, but I say no. Alright. Yup. True.
After finishing drilling the holes, cleaning everything up, it's reassembly time. This is, I'd say, over the halfway part now. Coming back through, the only difficult piece here is you obviously have pins that you have to line up now on the crank, as well as the chain that's still left in there for the oil pump gear. Since the pan's not off, you can't get below it to kind of fish it over. So you essentially take that first half piece, grab it on the teeth of the chain, and then you're going to be lining it up. You're not going to be able to just press in the dowels. That's not the point of them. You're going to have to end up using the crank bolt. I'll use my old crank bolt to seat it. But I got those kind of first started, and then I just put a little bit of pressure so it wouldn't pop out. I was then able to get the second half of, or the second piece of the two-piece design in there while fishing down the actual timing chain, scooping it on that, putting the two pieces together, and then that's when I used my old crank bolt to kind of just push it in. The amount of force, I wasn't worried about the timing chain being on the outer part of the two-piece design yet because obviously I don't have the whole timing set in. Um, the amount of foot-pounds to get those 4 pins in, you should not be cranking down on it. I was able to just, I'm essentially just barring it over the engine, and that's when I'm watching the crank bolt is pushing in the crank hub itself. Once that's there, you're just going to be on reassembly time, which is, you know, fishing the chain around, using the Vanos gears, which there is, I meant to mention this earlier, but there is an intake and exhaust side. The intake one, I believe, is smaller than the exhaust one. They are marked, but I recommend marking them when you take yours out. Excuse me. That's what I did, so I didn't get them confused. Uh, Other than that, there's not like a specific position that they need to go in like to be timed. Uh, the only thing that's going to matter is once you get to the point of putting on the actual like the wheels on the front of them, you use that same purple timing tool to put them at top dead center. One thing that, because I had to do this, I almost had to do it a third time. I thought I messed up was I just didn't have the cam sensors plugged in all the way on the intake side, which was throwing the same code that it did when I was off a tooth, which is the camshaft stuck code. Obviously, the camshaft's not stuck; the engine was running. Uh, but yeah, that's just, if you get that code, just one of the first things that you can check is either your Vano solenoids or you can check your camshaft position sensor. But other than that, this is just reassembly. I'm debating whether or not moving forward I want to show you doing like me putting it all back together in time lapse mode, because it's essentially just watch this video in reverse and you'll get the same effect. Uh, Overall, it took me a long time this first time. I went extremely slow through things. I still messed up, but I went extremely slow to learn a lot. When I had to take everything apart the second time, like after having everything back together, I had it stripped back down to the point of having like where I would be drilling the crank hub again if I needed to within like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So take your time the first time. Don't be scared of this. It's really not that bad of a job. It's intrusive into like the engine bay and everything like that, but it's pretty forgiving. I messed up a few times. My car still runs and drives. I just drove it 17 hours from Florida to Pennsylvania. So just take your time. That's all I can say. And if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments. This will probably be the last clip that I speak over. I will probably throw in this clip of me starting it for the first time. Uh, but yeah, that's about it. It's uh, not bad. Not bad. I thought it was way worse than it was. It's definitely not worth uh, spending like $7,000 and not getting a warranty from a place in Pensacola. Anyway, yep, just a few tools that I think are actually going to be necessary as I'm closing this out. I was thinking about it. You definitely want to get uh, the crank seal tool for this. You don't need the sealant that BMW calls for anymore, because with the PTFE seals, you don't need that anymore. But having the tool makes it a lot easier to slip it in and get it in place. Hitting those two seals in that you took out before, the vacuum pump seal also fought me. The same tool that can remove it can put it back in, but I kind of just was able to. I just did the good old freezer, shrunk them a little bit, smacked them in. Excuse me, what's going on with me? I'm just having issues. Uh, Other than that, there's another thing, that flywheel hold tool. When I was first torquing down my crank hub, which it's 90 foot-pounds or 100 foot-pounds in like 270 degrees, so it's a lot of torque. I broke it off, snapped it off like completely. So I had to grind it down, and it was because it didn't fully seat into the teeth of the flywheel. So preemptively, if you want to, just kind of carve out the holder itself to give yourself the additional ability to get it in there. But that's really the only other little caveats I have. Uh, Make sure your gasket surfaces are clear, clear. Um, yeah, and have fun. You know, learn something. Like I said in the previous thing, any questions? Let me know. If you guys enjoyed the video, maybe drop a like, subscribe. I upload now, not on a regular schedule. Who knows? Maybe I'll upload some video game stuff or keep doing car stuff. Also, I did my downpipes as soon as I finished this. As soon as like I started, it was good to go. I did the downpipes on it. That one, you just take the exhaust off. There's a few V bands, a few O2 sensors. Yeah, it's at the same time, because you have so much stuff taken off, it's pretty easy to do the downpipes at the same time. So if you have them and you're waiting to do your crank hub, to put them on until you do your crank hub like me, it's a good time to do them. Peace. Oh, love you. Bye.